Hello friends, it is Stasia and welcome back to my channel. So today we will be going over my May wrap up, and let me take a quick look at my stats because I think it may have been my best month so far. Yes, so far May has been my best reading month, which is very exciting. So we're going to start like we normally do and go into my haul, then we'll do my stats, and then we'll go over all of the books that I read in the order that I read them. I hauled a lot of books this month. I mean, it might not be a lot for some people, but this is the month where I hauled the most books for I don't know what reason. I just bought all of these books. So I hauled a total of 8 books, but only 3 of them were gifted to me in some way. So we'll start with those. So the first book I got was Indigo Ridge by Devney Perry. I actually got this book from the author. So yeah, not entirely sure what it's about. I believe it's like a small town suspense romance, not sure, but this is the first book I got. Then I got 5 Survive by Holly Jackson. I'm not entirely sure what this one is about, but I really enjoyed Holly Jackson's other books, the Good Girl's Guide to Murder series. So I'm really looking forward to this. This was gifted as a giveaway win from Ellie. And then the last book I was gifted was Sweet Regret by Kay Bromberg. Got this gifted by the author. I've already read it, so stick around if you want to see my thoughts on this. Then into all of the books that I bought myself, it's fine. So the first 2 books I got are going to be for a video that's going to be announced soon, but that will be Frayed by Laura Pavlov and Disgrace by Brittany Cherry. The next one I got was Happy Place by Emily Henry. So this I picked up in my weekly vlog that I uploaded a couple weeks ago, and in that vlog I also pick up Scarred by Emily McIntyre. So exciting things. And then the last book that I got for myself for a video coming in a few weeks is Brutal Obsession by S. Nassery. So those are all of the books that I accumulated this month, more than I have accumulated the entire year. So that's fine. At the end of June / the beginning of July, I'm going to put out my video where I kind of take a look at my goals video and see how we're doing there, because if you watch my goals video, I have a number goal that I would like to stay under that amount purchased. That doesn't include like gifted or anything like that, but this month alone I bought 5 books, so keep a lookout for that in the future to see how that all plays out, and where I'm at with all of my goals. So now we'll go into some quick stats. So in the month of May, I ended up reading 13 books, and that came out to 4,670 pages. My genre breakdown is 11 romance, of course, 1 thriller, and 1 fantasy. And my format were 8 ebooks, 3 physical, and 2 audio. So that's the stats. Now we're gonna go into the books that I read. I had a pretty good reading month, like rating wise as well. I had loads of 4 stars, so excited to share them with you. Unfortunately, this first book is not that case, but the first book that I read was Exposed by Ivy Smoke. I gave this book 2.5 stars. This is a part of the Empire High series, and if I'm being completely honest, I wish the series ended after book 3. But at this point, I'm not really enjoying the series so much, but this is the second to the last book, so I went ahead and read it before the last book comes out, and I'm hopefully just done with the series. Can't tell you too much about the series itself without spoiling anything, since it is a direct series, but I will just say that I gave it a 2.5 because of certain characters, and I feel like the author is kind of losing touch with the main story and like the main point of the story, the original characters, all of that. So yeah, not my favorite. It's fine. But the next one I read was Iced Out by Veronica Eden. I gave this book 5 stars. I really loved it. So this book follows Easton and Maya, and this is a rivals sisters romance, also hockey. So basically Easton meets Maya at like a bar, and he doesn't realize till later that she is the sister of like his rival on the ice. But I really loved it. This is a he falls first romance, and from the get-go Easton is like enamored with Maya, and being like the captain of the hockey team, he never really thought he was a guy for like commitment or anything like that. He really just like did what he wanted to do, and that was it. But when he meets Maya, things start to change. He doesn't really want to just do random hookups. He just is solely focused on getting to know Maya. Maya already has a rough past with hockey players, so she doesn't necessarily trust Easton, but for some reason, instead of completely like blocking him off, she kind of challenges him, and she's like, well, we'll see if you can like gain my interest enough for me to want to like go on a date with you or something. And their banter was just so fun. His like instant protectiveness of Maya was just so good. I will say that this book is amazing because there's no third act breakup, so note that wherever you are writing them down, because I know that we don't love those third act breakups, but this book does not have one. Their communication was just so spot on, where like they understood each other to the point where there was no need for a third act breakup, and I really love that. Their overall connection, and also the banter between Easton and the rest of the hockey team was just so well done, because they're like, oh, look at him, like he might be stuck on one girl and he's just like, I don't even know what's wrong with me, but he wasn't complaining. But overall, really loved it. It was just such a fun time, and I highly recommend this book. The next book I read was Under the Stars by Laura Pavlov. Also gave this book 5 stars. If you're new here, I love Laura Pavlov. Like, everything she writes, I just absolutely eat up. But this story follows Maddox and Georgia, also known as Bossman and Tink. Super cute nicknames. But basically, Maddox is like the CEO of a publishing house that got passed down to him from his grandfather. And the publishing house decides to like make a move to this small town where Georgia and her family live. Upon moving to this small town, Maddox kind of needs to, you know, rehire people, get things going. So he is notorious for having personal assistants who don't last. So Georgia decides to apply. She gets the job, and things just kick off from there. Maddox is like, no, I'm not going to be a stereotype. I'm not going to fall for this woman. She's my employee, things like that. Georgia is very like sunshine, rainbows, but she also is dealing with some stuff with an ex-boyfriend. So all of that is going on, but I loved it. I cried. Like, it's very rare and hard for me to cry. Like, I didn't bawl because that doesn't really happen, but I definitely shed tears. Maddox and Georgia were just so raw and real together, and I loved them so much. You could see how much they started to open up to each other and trust each other. And Georgia has a very supportive family with her siblings, but like, you also need like a person outside of that, and Maddox goes above and beyond for Georgia, but he also brushes it off. Like, I just loved him. He was broody to everyone except for her, but yeah, it was a little bit of a slow burn. It took them a little bit to get there, but once they got there, I promise that it was worth it. Technically, there's no third act breakup in this either. There is a moment in time where they both need to like clear their heads after an event, but it makes sense. So you're definitely like still rooting for them. So yeah, there's no frustrating third act breakup, but their past, or Maddox's past, really like made him not trust people. So seeing him slowly trust Georgia without like even intentionally doing it, he just finds her so easy to talk to, was just so good. I also loved the like sneak peeks that we got from our first couple in the series, Hugh and Lila, and we also see their cousins, which is the sisters in the Honey Mountain series. So we got a lot of cameos in this book that I really enjoyed, but overall it was such a fun time. There are a few trigger warnings that you might want to check out if you are looking into this book, but so good, so good. Loved it so much. I loved it. I can't wait for the next in the series. Don't know how it gets any better, but I'm very excited. The next book I read was Until You Set Me Free by DM Davis, and I gave this book 4 stars. I did enjoy it. This book follows Joe and Sam. Joe, his family comes from money and all of that fun stuff, and he's also Sam's brother's roommate. So during Thanksgiving, Joe decides to tag along and he meets Sam when they go back home. And yeah, so from the get-go, there is a bit of an age gap, like 3 years, I believe. But yeah, so I did enjoy seeing Sam and Joe's like jealousness, but Joe tried so hard to kind of resist that because of 1, the age gap, and 2, their her brother. So there is a bit of like a point in time where it's kind of like a will they won't they sort of situation, but I really enjoyed it. There is a lot of back and forth that kind of bugged me. I also didn't know that this is a series, so I don't even know like if they get their happily ever after, so I will let you guys know that now. It ends on like a little bit of a cliffhanger, so if this is something that possibly sounds interesting to you, just let you know. All the books are on KU though, so I am planning on reading it at some point, but I just didn't get to it this month. I overall loved their connection with each other. Sam is known as the girl who kind of just has everything together, but Joe is like, you don't need to be that way with me. Like, I understand that you also need someone. So it was just very nice overall. And yeah, so I enjoyed them. The next book I read was The Troublemaker by Jessica Peterson. This is also brother's best friend age gap. This age gap is a bigger age gap though. I think he's like in his 30s and she's like 22 or 23 or something. But yes, so this follows Greer and Brooks. This book is also featured in my weekly vlog. If you want to check that out, there might be a little bit more thoughts in there. So I'm just going to give you guys like a quick synopsis of the book. So like I said, this follows Greer and Brooks. Brooks is, he's a trader. I'm not sure what he trades or like what he's doing, but he has like a math focused job. And Greer has her own bakery that is like under his office. So like every morning she takes like baked goods up to them so that they could like have their coffee and this, that, and the other. But Brooks sees that Greer is very much like a people pleaser. So he kind of wants to help her just relax. So they kind of have that situation going on where he's like, you deserve more than like what you're doing. Like you know, should trust others. You don't have to do everything yourself sort of vibe. So they have that whole situation going on. Eventually, obviously, Brooks does give in. This one is a bit of a slow burn too. It takes them a while to get there just because Brooks doesn't want to ruin his friendship with Greer's brother. So yeah, gave this 4 stars, did enjoy it. I will say that the like conflicts got brushed over really quickly. I wish that there was kind of more conversation there. This book also does not have a 3rd act breakup, so that's great. Add another one to the list. But yeah, so overall I really like them. I just wish that they talked a little bit more about like the conflict, but their connection was strong. I loved how much Brooks looked out for Greer and how much he was able to open up to her. It was very nice to see them both grow from like the beginning to the end of the book, with Brooks like being able to open up and smile again, and Greer being able to ask and take what she may need. So really enjoyed them. Then I read King of Wrath. Read this for the Mending Hearts book club, so I won't tell you too much about it. I will kind of just tell you a bit of the plot. So I ended up giving this book 4 stars. This book follows Vivian and Dante. Dante is from old money, Vivian's family is from new money. When Dante finds himself in a situation where he is being sort of forced to have this arranged marriage with Vivian, things get kind of weird because Vivian is like, okay, she kind of seen this coming, but Dante was not one who ever thought that he wanted to settle down or get married or do any of that kind of stuff. So it's very much just an arranged marriage situation. There is like a hint of suspense because of the arrangement that Dante is going through. It's very hard to not spoil things, but I want to just give you guys like the bare minimum. But yeah, so overall I did enjoy it. 4 stars. I will link my vlog above and below if you want to know more thoughts or why I gave it the rating. All right guys, we're like halfway there now. All right. Stick with me. So the next book I read was Neutral Zone by Tegan Hunter. This is a hockey romance that follows Fitz and Rosie. Fitz is kind of the shy, doesn't really like to go out hockey player. He also has a cat, which is super cute. And Rosie is a cab girl who also works in a donut shop or like a donut bus. So basically in this situation, Fitz watches Rosie with like her cab girl stuff. It's nothing like wild. She just does like mundane things just like on camera. So she like colors or like bakes or paints her nails, like things like that. So it's nothing like too rated R for that situation. But he watches her, but she doesn't know that he watches him. But they've always had like a crush on each other, but never really express that to each other until a situation arises and one thing leads to another, blah blah blah. So I gave this book 4 stars. I really enjoyed it. I was pleasantly surprised with Fitz and Rosie. I wasn't entirely sure how I was going to feel about like everything basically, but I did enjoy Fitz. He is such a sweetheart. Like he had such a good heart and great intentions when it came to Rosie. Rosie just has a lot of past trauma that she needs to like sit with and work through a lot. But I loved how open Fitz was to talk to her regardless of their situations. They did have great banter. I loved the entire hockey team just like making fun of Fitz. And I also loved the relationship that Rosie had with her coworkers and also like her relationship with the hockey team. But overall I really enjoyed it. There is a lot of like pining, I guess you could say. Fitz is constantly chasing Rosie while simultaneously wanting to give her space, so it is a bit of a back and forth, but overall it pays off in the end. So I did enjoy it. The next book I read is Scoring the Player by Rebecca Genshak. This is a football fake dating situation. So this follows Felix and Dahlia. So Dahlia is very, very shy. She only goes to all of these like parties and things because of her roommates. But when she makes a like deal to herself that this year of college is going to be different, she's going to put herself out there, she's going to do all of this fun stuff, she still finds herself like cramming up every time Felix tries to talk to her. So a situation arises where he's like, hey, this could be like mutually beneficial. We can fake date and Felix will introduce her to people so that she can get out of her shell more. I gave this book 4.5 stars. I loved Felix and Dahlia. I just wish that Felix figured it out sooner, I guess. But it's fine. Overall, it was such a fun time. I loved the fake dating aspect. Like you could see Felix falling, but he didn't know like what to call it. Like he didn't know what to expect. They were very much not on the same page in the way that they both wanted more at the end of the fake dating situation, but neither of them wanted to be the one to, I guess, like come out and say it. But overall, I did really enjoy it. Like I said, I love Felix and I love Dahlia. I just felt like their overall connection where they were kind of opposites, where Felix was like super popular, he knew everyone, and Dahlia was kind of just like the shy one in the background, doesn't like have much confidence yet. I love their relationship with that and how you could see that Dahlia slowly became comfortable with Felix and like let him in, and Felix was able to get Dahlia out of her shell, and seeing her come out of her shell was just so fun, having her gain that confidence and everything. And yeah, so at the end of the 6 weeks, they don't know where to go from there, and it's just a whole thing. But overall, like I said, really enjoyed it. Fun characters. You also get to see a lot of the past couples from the first 2 books in the series, so that's always a fun time, but definitely recommend. The next book I read was Youre Invited. This is a thriller that takes place at a wedding. So I gave this book 4 stars. Basically, this book follows Amaya. She's invited to her ex-best friend Kavi's wedding, but Kavi is engaged to Amaya's ex-boyfriend that she dated for years in college. But when she gets an invitation to their wedding, Amaya is determined to stop it. So there's a lot of drama, but you know, it's fine. Like I said, I gave it 4 stars. I had a lot of fun with it. It was very entertaining, but I will say by like the 70-75% mark, I already knew how everything was going to like unfold and like play out in the end, and I was correct on that. But overall, it was still like very dramatic. There's also like interviews like every few chapters where the detective of the case is trying to figure out what happened, because the book basically like opens up with Kavi going missing on like her wedding day. So it's like a entire investigation. So they talk to all of her aunties and everyone at the wedding trying to figure out what happened. So there's a lot of like snarky rich people drama because they're all rich. So they're like, oh yeah, well I heard this, and you know, like all of that catty sort of gossip. So that was really fun. But yeah, give it 4 stars. Really enjoyed. More thoughts will come soon. This is in a vlog coming at some point whenever I finish it, but yeah, so keep an eye out for that. The next book I read was 100% because of the hype, and that was Fourth Wing, which is a bit wild because I'm not a fantasy girl, but everyone, even people who I follow on Bookstagram who are like primarily romance readers, still really enjoyed it. So pick this one up. I'm happy to say that I gave it 4.5 stars. I ended up listening to the audiobook, and I've seen some people like wary of the audiobook, but I didn't find anything wrong with it. Like I actually really enjoyed the audiobook, so there's that. If you have no idea what this book is about, I do not know the characters' names. So this book basically follows Violet, and she's 21 years old, so she has to choose her job. She always thought that she was going to become a scribe, but like her mom, she ends up attempting to become a dragon rider. So this basically follows Violet as she's going through all of the tests and the schoolings to hopefully become a dragon rider. But she's a lot smaller than everyone else. She's more petite and, you know, obviously weaker. So she definitely has a lot stacked up against her, but her mother's like, no, because my children need to be dragon riders, so you need to figure it out. So we follow this, seeing how she goes through all the schooling, but there's always that undertone of not really knowing what's going on, because in this like school, you either become a dragon rider or you die. So there is that like undertone of, oh no, like is it going to happen? But upon going to this school, she meets Zayden, who has kind of a grudge held against her family, but when she finds herself in his quadrant, things get a bit tense. So like I said, I gave it 4 stars, or 4.5 stars. I actually really enjoyed it. It was a lot of fun. There is that like enemies to lovers aspect. There's a lot of like high stakes situations, which I actually found really, really enjoyable. Same with all fantasy. There's a lot of scenes that were hard for me to get through, like visualization wise. Like I can't imagine these fight scenes. So when that was being like read to me in the audiobook, I was just like, I have no idea what's going on. So it kind of like takes me out of the story for a little bit, but that's a me problem. 100%. You might love it. But I think if I read this physically, I might not have been more engaged, if I'm being honest. But overall, it was super, super fun. I loved seeing Violet and Zayden and seeing like their relationship and how they become like companions, like how they're forced to trust each other being in the same squadron. And it was a lot of fun. I really enjoyed it, surprisingly. So 4.5 stars for that. The next book I read was Business or Pleasure by Rachel Lynn Solomon. I'm not gonna give you my thoughts on this because I have an entire sit down review video coming on release day. So this releases on June 20th. So my review video will come out either like on the day it releases or maybe like a day before or a day after. I'm not entirely sure, but I will have an entire sit down review video of this. So stay tuned for that. But I will mention that I gave this book 3.5 stars. This was my first Rachel Lynn Solomon, so I wasn't sure what to expect, and I'm not sure if this is what I have to expect from her other books. But yeah, so this follows Chandler and Finn. Chandler is at a point in her life where she's not really knowing what she wants to do with her job, with her life overall. So when she runs into a charming guy at a bar, she decides to kind of just have fun for one night. So at the end of the night, she sneaks out expecting never to see him again. But the next day she gets a call from her agent saying like, hey, I have a ghostwriting opportunity for you, because that's her job. She usually ghostwrites for celebrities. So she's like, I have a ghostwriting opportunity for you. It is for this person. She's like, I have no idea who that person is. He's a C-list actor. So she's like, all right. Her agent's like, all right, go ahead, go to this meeting, meet them, see what they have to say, blah, blah, blah. So when she walks into this meeting, she realizes that it is the guy from the night before. So she already has like, oh my gosh, I can't take this job. But when they basically give her an offer she can't refuse, she ends up taking the job. So she is determined to keep it professional, keep it business, but they do strike a deal when Chandler tells Finn like, hey, our night together for me wasn't as great as it was for you. Finn is determined to kind of brush up on those skills in the bedroom. So they make a deal that while Chandler is with him, doing all of this stuff to kind of get like things for his book, like all of that, like following him around to get content for his book, she's like, all right, I will teach you some stuff on how to be better in the bedroom. And that's basically where it goes from there. So I gave it 3.5 stars. I won't say anything else. Keep a lookout for my review that will be coming soon. Okay guys, 2 more books. I promise we're almost done. So the second to the last book I read was Sweet Regret by Kay Bromberg. This releases on June 1st and it will be on Kindle Unlimited. So highly, highly recommend. I give this book 5 stars. So this book follows Bristol and Vince. Vince is a rock star, but he knew Bristol like 12 years ago. They dated in high school, but things happened and he left to go pursue his dreams, whatever. But in that 12 years, somewhere in the middle, like 7 years ago, they met up and that was kind of the last time they seen each other. Fast forward to now, they end up bumping into each other because Bristol is hired by her company to, I'm not really sure what her job is, but her job is to kind of make sure that Vince has everything he needs and is happy, essentially. But it's not very easy to put their past aside, but there's also a lot of secrets that are being kept. So very fun. I give this book 5 stars. All the tabs, all the annotations, it was literally such a fun time. I loved Vince. He had so much like real raw trauma that he really needed to work through, and seeing him work through that just made me like so happy for him. And Bristol, although she has always loved Vince, she has this deep secret that she is always fighting with herself on whether or not she should tell him, but she doesn't want to like make it a bigger thing or like make him feel forced to have this obligation or anything. So it gets complicated. But overall, I really, really loved it. Like their trauma was real. Their relationship was just like explosive. I loved seeing them together. The way things came out, I think it had to come out that way, like with the whole dramatics, with the secrets being revealed. It had to happen that way because of their relationship. I completely understood both the characters and their intentions. I completely understood where they were both coming from. So I just really, really loved their story. Seeing their pain was just so real and so sad, but you're just rooting for them the entire time because they do both deserve to be happy. So overall, 5 stars, really enjoyed. All right, friends, and the last book I read was Baby Moon or Bust by Ava Hunter. I gave this book 4 stars. So this book basically follows Tess and Solomon. One day they're both having a hard night. One night stand leads to accidental pregnancy. When Tess tries and fails to find Solomon, she decides she's going to keep the baby anyways. And 6 months into the pregnancy, she is going on a baby moon. So basically she goes on vacation to kind of just like relax and all of that stuff before the baby comes. When Solomon accidentally sees Tess on TV and realizes that she's pregnant, he instantly flies to try to go see her. Before he gets to see her, he's intercepted by her best friend cousin, and she's like, hey, Tess is going on a baby moon and you are going to take my spot. So they're basically forced proximity. They're forced to try to work this out and see what's going to happen with this baby, because Solomon is not going to walk away. He does want to be in his son's life, so there's all that fun stuff. But overall, I really loved it. I understood Tess and her hesitance to trust Solomon, but I also like Solomon's intentions were so pure, and his like instinct to protect her the second he seen her was just so great. I really loved seeing their story. I thought that it was so fun. They had a lot of like important conversations, but they also had great banter. I loved the back and forth between them because Tess is so like sassy and Solomon is just like gruff. He's like a mountain man. He doesn't really like people, but when he is with Tess, he's forced to kind of get out of that mindset. So overall, super enjoyed. Gave it 4 stars. Whew. All right, friends, that is it. That is the 13 books that I read in the month of March. I hope you enjoyed. If you have any comments, questions, or anything about any of the books I read, or if you want to share any of the books that you read, definitely do so in the comments below. But that is it from me. So you can like, comment, and subscribe down below if you'd like. All of my socials, follow me anywhere else, and everything mentioned will be in the description as always. And I'll see you in the next one. Bye!